Alright, guys, here's a new episode of Fun with Cards. In today's Fun with Cards, we're going to be highlighting Halana and Alena partners. And this is just a lowly common, but I think this card, paired with a couple of other cards, can be quite a monster of a card. And for one reason and one reason only. The text at the bottom of this card says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gets +X/+X, and X is equal to this creature's power. It's so easy to buff up this creature that you can start to give massive amounts of power to your other creatures, and it is so fun. And because it's just a little 10 mana common, almost everybody has it. The thing is, it does take other mythics to get really good, so there is one caveat there. But if you have Turn Timber Symbiosis, it gives it a +6/+6. This is super important because you will need it to stay alive long enough to give a buff to your creatures. And also, Obun, Muldaya Ancestor, because the buff that Obun gives is actually going to trigger before Halana and Alena give its own buff back to it. So these two creatures can give each other massive amounts of buffs to each other. And the awesome thing is, even though Obun's buff is just temporary for the attack phase, Halana and Alena's is permanent, which is amazing, especially for a common card. I mean, this card is rarity level rare at the least, in my opinion. Although, it does need a couple of mythics to make it really good, but still, there are plenty of other cards that, even though they're rare, they don't shine unless they pair with other mythics. So, other cards that help with that: Lair of the Hydra. This creature gets +X/+X if there are 10 or more green gems. And because we're using a mono green planeswalker, I'll start with Ellywick, but this really doesn't matter. You can use any green walker for this. Old Gnawbone is not necessary. I was actually using Tanazir, but I like the amount of mana that I get from Old Gnawbone. Helps me a little bit more than just like overpowering it with the Tanazir buff. Even though I will feature Tanazir in this showcase a little later. Let's see what else. Inscription of Abundance gives a little buff to our creatures too, and it also helps us stay alive. But Lair of the Hydra, gives Halana and Alena, because she has reached the buff over Obun and Old Gnawbone. Ringheart Crest I just have in here because it's a pretty good card for Ellywick. And yeah, I think that's all that really needs to be talked about so far. So let's get into one of the battles. So I don't actually think Ellywick is the best green planeswalker for this, but I've just been using her a lot, and kind of where I figured out this combo. But Renin 7, it is Renin 7, right? Yeah, Renin 7 is good as well. Oh yeah, Reclaim the Waste I like to use because it can fetch me a Turn Timber, which is what we're really after here. Get an Obun. So let's try and get our Turn Timber going. Okay. So it's aboard as an 8/9, which if you start with one pretty early, that most likely means it will be able to survive most people. But here we go. So this combo is already working out well. So we're already starting with a 2020 buff with Obun. And let's give them an extra buff. So there's just a massive stack of power happening there. But yeah, things go right. This is how quickly things get out of control. So here's another favorite deck of mine. This is actually a modified version of a Huatli deck that I made for the File Spawn Spider, but it's really good at generating mana, so I like to use it for this group of creatures as well. And I put in Sword of the Realms so that Halana and Alena can get a little extra buff there. I could change some things around here. Get Mantle of Webs and put in, what's this one? Witch's Web instead. We could do that. Let's go ahead and do that instead. Kind of like Witch's Web right now. Gains Reach and Death Touch, which will hopefully keep our Halana and Alena alive a little longer, but as long as we get Turn Timber Symbiosis down, I don't think it will matter too much. And of course, Sword of the Realms, giving our creature +6/+2 will also help. And yeah, so let's go ahead and try this deck out. So I've been using these Hana and Alena decks to blow through training grounds because it just gets out of control so quickly that games end really early. Let's see how we do with this one though. The thing about Huatli is it's not the greatest planeswalker for fetching specific cards we want. Get a Witch's Web down. Let's see, is that enough? 2, 3. Not quite. Let's see if we can get another Witch's Web. Well, we get Rune of Sustenance down. It should be able to stay alive for that. Oh, did we already do that? Okay, well. Okay. This match should let us get it on the board. Maybe some more. Ooh. Alright. I'll take that. Good start to things. Now, because he has First Strike and Death Touch, I think that means I can keep him alive for a lot longer. Or maybe they both self-destruct if he would otherwise die. I forget. I love having Rune of Sustenance as well. kind of had to take the place of, what do you call it? Staggering Insight, but still very solid card. And then, of course, if you get Rem Carless on the board, you can keep everything alive. And sometimes you really need that for Halana and Alena. But by the time things get going, you rarely ever need all three creatures on the board. It's like one or the other kind of takes care of itself. But really, Obun is the engine that gets things going there. But, you know, it's all the cards in conjunction with each other that turn Timber Symbiosis if you can get it on the ground or on the board, and then Obun, and then things tend to take care of themselves from there, and you got those extra little buffs that help it get going really quickly. So I will show you one more deck that I like for this combo. Okay, this deck is for Garruk Cursed Huntsman, and, you know, same deal. The only difference now is I have Westgate Regent in here, and even though it doesn't buff anything else itself, getting this whole combo going with this creature's +X/+X, this thing just gets out of control already, as if it already wasn't a great card on it without everything else happening with it. I mean, this card wins games on its own, but coupled with Halana and Alena and Obun, it just goes nuts. So that'll be fun to show you right now. So the rest of the cards in this deck are really just to keep our creatures safe and happy while we do our thing. Just want to test also if we get our spider thing going, if it will keep us alive or not. If Death Touch will trigger before the creature dies or not, even if yeah, cool. Even if the creature's power is greater than Halana and Alena's, because Death Touch, it'll still die. So, I mean, that's a crazy wall right there. That means you don't necessarily have to have Turn Timber going, but it's still great, right? So yeah, okay, so we already got the Westgate Regent down, so that's gonna be nutty. Got our little Obun thing happening without Obun, but it's whatever. All right. So there you go, guys. What do you think? Pretty nutty range of outcomes you can have with this little common creature, right? I'm curious how you guys want to break this combo as well. Maybe I'll just throw in a Tanazir one just for the heck of it here. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so this is that same Ellywick deck, but I put in Tanazir instead. So I think I will probably, instead of putting in Ringheart Crest, I will switch out for the for that spider card instead, because I do like that it will keep it alive for longer. Keep them alive for longer, I should say. Cool. Tanazir. Get Halana on the board. Let's see. Do I go Inscription? Get Obun. Oh shit. He might start wiping out my guys. Yeah. Her best ability is by far her second. I actually rarely use the other ones. Dang it. It's gonna die, so might as well grab another here. Oops. Okay, let's use Kicker so it doesn't cast my next one. Oops. Didn't mean to hit that, but oh well. Well, at least that ensures that I'll stay alive. And then also we could double the buff. So that's cool. Let's Tanazir this, and that'll probably... Oh wait, no. See that? If he was hasted, then we'd have no problem. Oh, there you go. Let's give Tanazir the buff. Oh, would have been fun to see how much it buffed everybody else, but oh well. You get the idea. The reason I don't use Tanazir as much anymore is I found that it was overkill. A lot of times I'd just rather have the mana gains from Old Gnawbone instead, and you can always buff up Old Gnawbone with Halana and Alena if you really want to. So I found it unnecessary to have that much power, but you know, it's up to you. If you want to get crazy power buffs instead of a more reliable deck, go knock yourself out. All right, see you in the next one.